All right, we're going to wrap up the review for the midterm, and keep in mind that I'm really obviously giving you an overview, and it's still taking the better part, I guess, probably of an hour to go through all this stuff because it is quite a lot to boil down to 50 questions, true, false, multiple choice, and of course there will be some calculations involved in some of the questions. But what I want to emphasize to you is that there's going to be a discussion board that I'll be setting up sometime this weekend also for the sole purpose of dealing with questions, discussion on the exam. That will be open until the exam is made available, which I'm thinking is probably going to be in the Wednesday or Thursday time frame, and it will be set up so that you'll have at least 4 full days time window to complete the exam, with the idea that the the due date and time will be Sunday, so that will be the basis for taking attendance for the following week. Obviously, tomorrow will be based on the Chapter 6 assignment. So, with all that said, let's finish up the review here by looking at first of all these items regarding terms of sale. If you recall, we talked a pretty fair amount about those terms, the FOB or free on board shipping point, and free on board or FOB destination. And what's important for you to know about each of these terms is at which point does the title pass to the buyer when these shipping terms or these terms of sale are used. So, for example, FOB shipping point means that the goods are only free on board to the seller's shipping point, which may very well be the seller's facility. And what that means is when the carrier takes those goods and then has them in their possession to transport to the buyer, at the point that that carrier takes possession, which is the shipping point, title passes to the buyer. So if you're given a question regarding what goods should be or should not be included in the ending inventory, goods that were shipped FOB shipping point and they reach that shipping point before the end of the period, then they should be included in the buyer's inventory. Now, on the other hand, if it's FOB destination, that means it's free on board destination and the seller is paying the shipping charges all the way to the buyer's destination. And what that also means is that title doesn't pass to the buyer until the goods have reached his or her destination. What this means, again, in terms of the accounting, is that if the goods were purchased, but they have not arrived at the buyer's destination, then the title is not passed to the buyer by the end of the period, then those goods should not be included in the inventory of the current period. It's just as simple as that. So it's important to understand the distinction between those two terms of sale for that purpose of determining what's included in inventory, what's not included in inventory at period end. Goods on consignment. Those are goods that the company may be holding on behalf of another firm. The other firm still has a title to those goods, so goods on consignment should not be included in the company who is holding the goods as part of their inventory, even though it's on their premises. All right, going into Chapter 6 on reporting and analyzing inventory, and here one of our main focuses was on the various cost flow methods of costing the inventory via the FIFO, first in, first out, LIFO, last in, first out, or average cost methods. And the best illustrations of them were using a periodic system, but they can be applied in a perpetual system as well. But as well as knowing how to manipulate the various layers, such as if you're given a problem with a beginning inventory and some purchases that occurred over several different dates, and you're asked to determine based on that information plus whatever the ending inventory was at the end of the period, or whatever goods were sold, where you could compute what the ending inventory was. Then you need to know how to value that ending inventory using each of these methods. You also need to know the effects on inventory, cost of goods sold, and net income. So for example, in periods of rising prices, you should know that the FIFO method produces the highest net income, and that's why some firms would prefer to use LIFO, because in times of rising costs, LIFO produces the lowest net income. And you need to understand why that is the case based on what FIFO and LIFO do to the inventory cost and the cost of goods sold cost. And those, of course, are important pieces in determining the net income. Then we talked about the lower of cost or market, and you should know that that's basically based on a current replacement cost for the goods versus the cost that was paid for them initially. The LIFO reserve, which is a term for the difference between the inventory computed under the LIFO method and a requirement that's in generally accepted accounting principles to also show what the inventory would have been costed as if FIFO had been used. Well, with that, that basically wraps up the review for the final as far as these presentations. But again, if that doesn't answer the questions that you may have on the various chapters material to your satisfaction, that's what that discussion board is going to be there for, and I'll be checking it as frequently as I can over the next few days. Good luck on the exam, and also feel free to use email if you have specific questions for me.